I'm arguing in this piece, it's over at HartmannReport.com, that if Democrats don't basically steal Donald Trump's meme, now they don't have to do it word for word, but drain the swamp was his phrase, and I don't think it's a bad phrase. He did not originate this. Drain the swamp is a phrase that literally goes back to the 19th century, to the 1800s. And, you know, it's more applicable today than ever before. And the problem, of course, I mean, this was the main thing that Donald Trump ran on in 2016 that got him in the White House. You know, he was up on the stage with all those Republicans, and he was like, they're all taking money from other people. I'm not. I'm incorruptible. I can't be bought. Now, he was lying through his teeth. You know, Vladimir Putin owns him, as do, you know, and he was dancing to the tune of any number of other billionaires, and he created the most corrupt cabinet in the history of America with at least two billionaires on it. You know, one of whom was called by Forbes magazine, Wilbur Ross was called by Forbes magazine to be a lifelong grifter. And the other, of course, Betsy DeVos, who wants to destroy public schools. He put her in charge of public schools. So, you know, people figured out that he was lying. It took him 4 years to figure that out, but that's why he lost the last election by 7 million votes. But the bottom line is that it worked for him initially, this idea that, you know, he was above money and he wasn't going to be corrupted by it. And there was a time in America before the Supreme Court got into this act when it was a crime to bribe politicians. In 1907, we had the Tillman Act, which, you know, was passed in the wake of Teddy Roosevelt's administration. In fact, 1907, Teddy Roosevelt was still president, I think, then. And you know, it explicitly made it a felony, a federal felony, for any corporation in America to provide any kind of support, services, or money to any candidate for political office. There were also laws very much like this on the books in Alaska, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Kentucky, Minnesota, Montana, North Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, West Virginia, Texas, and Wisconsin. And just to give you a sense of what these laws said, now keep in mind, these are all laws that were blown up by Citizens United in 2010. Many of these laws were still on the books as of 2010. Some of them had been blown up by earlier decisions, Buckley and Bellotti in the 70s, when the Supreme Court started on this jag of saying, well, there's no such thing as political bribery. That's just free speech. But this is another one that got taken down. This is a law that was on the books in Wisconsin. And let me just read 2 paragraphs from it. No corporation doing business in this state shall pay or contribute or offer consent or agree to pay or contribute, directly or indirectly, any money, property, free service of its officers or employees or thing of value to any political party, organization, committee, or individual for any political purpose whatsoever, or for the purpose of influencing legislation of any kind, or to promote or defeat the candidacy of any person for nomination, appointment, or election to any political office. Now, that's pretty straightforward, right? That's very straightforward. That would have outlawed, you know, Leonard Leo and his Federalist Society group, you know, basically lobbying members of Congress to put Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch and Beer Bong Brett on the Supreme Court, among others. And not only did it say you can't do this, but here's the second paragraph. This is the penalty part of this old Wisconsin law. Quote, any officer, employee, agent, or attorney or other representative of any corporation acting for and in behalf of such corporation who shall violate this act shall be punished upon conviction by imprisonment in the state prison for a period of not less than 1 nor more than 5 years. And if it is a domestic corporation, in other words, based in the state of Wisconsin, it may be dissolved, or if a foreign or non-resident corporation, in other words, a corporation that's headquartered someplace else but does business in Wisconsin, and if a foreign or non-resident corporation, its right to do business in this state may be declared forfeit. Laws of this type are the reason why, from 1907 until the 1980s, when the Supreme Court first started knocking down these laws in 76 and 78, but it really, everybody got the memo in the 1980s with the Reagan Revolution. From 1907 until 1981, basically, there was very little political corruption in America. And the result of that was that our politicians actually did things the American people wanted. Excuse me. We got the minimum wage. We got the right to unionize. We got regulatory agencies that prevented the Wall Street from ripping off small investors, the Securities and Exchange Commission. We got laws that prevented banks from ripping off their customers. There was a whole bunch of them. Glass-Steagall is the most famous. We got Medicare. We got Medicaid. We got Social Security. All of these things, and the list goes on and on, right? Federal highway funds, et cetera. All of these things came about, I think I mentioned the minimum wage at the very beginning of that list. All of these things came about because corporations and billionaires could not buy politicians until the early 1980s. Now, since the early 1980s, there has not been one really major significant piece of legislation passed that principally helped working class people. There's been a lot of legislation passed. There have been 3 massive tax cuts for billionaires and corporations. There's been massive deregulation. There have been huge hits to our federal agencies. The IRS now has half as many employees as it used to have. The EPA has been gutted. I mean, all kinds of insane things have passed because the billionaires and these corporations are calling the tune. So what I'm arguing is that this has to be job one for the Democratic Party. It helped put Donald Trump in the White House in 2016. It will help get Democrats elected to public office this year and in 2024 if the Republican Party can the Democratic Party, can redefine their message to point out that the Republicans are bought off and sold out. Now, this is not to say that there are not sold out, bought off politicians in the Democratic Party. We all know the names of at least 2 of them in the Senate, and there are more. But the Democratic Party has within it the Congressional Progressive Caucus, about 100 members who have committed not to taking corporate money and are moving the Democratic Party in a positive and progressive direction. And this is a big deal, a BFD, as Joe Biden would, once said to Barack Obama. So in summary, drain the swamp has a nice ring to it. Now, I realize that people associate it with Donald Trump. But Democrats need to be embracing this, whether they come up with a new phrase that says the same thing or whether they just drain the swamp and use it, use it when they're using it, say that they're quoting Huey Long instead of Donald Trump or somebody like that. And I realize Huey Long is no great paragon, but he was a populist on the left. This is the best way to begin this necessary recovery of our republic from the near-death experience of Trump and his neo-fascist enablers. This is important stuff.